First thing we need to do when we start this project is we need to make sure that we can save things easily to Google Drive. So now that you're logged on to one of our computer lab computers, you can go ahead and activate Google Drive, which is a syncing app. So you're going to go down to the search bar, type in Google Drive, and when you click on that, it should activate and prompt you to log in. If you can't find that app on the computer, you will simply go to Google Chrome and search for the Google Drive desktop app download, and make sure you download that, install it, and get logged into that Google Drive file stream or Google Drive on your PC, so that when you save something, you can save it to your hard drive. What that looks like is you'll open up your File Explorer, and as soon as that's activated, you'll see a drive over here that literally says Google Drive, and you can access all of your Google Drive stuff from here, and it'll probably be syncing for the moment. And then once it's synced and everything is saved and synced from the cloud, then you'll see these little cloud icons on your folders. So that's how you activate Google Drive on the PC. Once you have Google Drive activated, you are now ready to begin with the template. So you're going to go to Canvas, and you'll see a few links on here. One is the link that you clicked to get to this video, but you'll also see this InDesign folder and template, which is a link to a Google Drive folder. You'll want to open that up, and you'll see that there are some items in here for your use. We have first of all, we have a couple of paw print logos that you could potentially use for your cover design. What we're also going to have is an InDesign template. It's going to be a 4-page template. So the first thing you'll want to do is you want to go ahead and right-click on that file, and you'll need to download that to your PC. Once that file downloads, it'll automatically identify it as an InDesign file. And so you can go ahead and open that up, and it should open this template up in InDesign, and you're going to see that this is a 4-page newspaper. You have a cover page, you have a back page, and then you have your inside pages 2 and 3. You'll notice that the page numbers are a little out of whack. That's because when we print this, we have to print it essentially in reverse order, so that it comes out looking like a newspaper when it's all said and done. So when we're done with this project, we'll have this all printed out. While we have this access to this InDesign folder, let's go ahead and make a shortcut into our Google Drive so that we have quick access to this. What we can also do is this folder can also be a dumping ground for any images or other multimedia sources that you come up with during your design process. So to do that, you're going to go ahead and find where it says the title of this folder, which is InDesign Paper Design. And you're going to click the arrow next to it and go ahead and click on Add Shortcut to Drive. Then you'll just say where you want it. And if it were me, I would just go ahead and throw this into my Journalism 1 folder. So I'll just throw that into Journalism. And now you have a shortcut. It's not like a copy or anything like that. It's just a shortcut to get to this exact spot later on. So now let's go ahead and talk about windows and tools in this InDesign. Once you've opened this template, we're going to want to make sure that you have the proper windows over here on the side. You want to make sure you have access to your toolbar. So what we want to do is we want to go to this window option up here at the top and make sure that we have selected Properties and Tools. And what we're also going to make sure that we have a check mark next to, we're going to make sure that we select Text Wrap. We're going to use that later when we throw pictures into an article, and we're going to want to make sure that the text can wrap around that image. And so we'll get to that one later. So make sure you check mark the Properties, Text Wrap, and Tools so that you have your toolbar over here on the left, and you can drag this around. If you don't like it there, you can just pull it into the middle. Just know that that is now a floating tool, or you can just lock it into the side there. And so I like to have that just locked onto the whole left side. And then over here on the right, you have properties, you have pages, so that you can kind of look at your table of contents, and you have your text wrapping, and that'll be for images or other frames and things like that later on. What we also want to do is we want to make sure that we understand the different tools. If you've used Adobe products before, Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Photoshop, or they have tons of different products, then you may be also familiar with the fact that they have a ton of tools that make it so that you can customize different things in many, many different ways. But we're going to go over the basic ones that we'll be using for the most part with this project. So let's go ahead and start with the selection arrows. So we have the selection tool, which will allow you to select what is a frame. And then a direct selection tool will allow you to go ahead and manipulate anything that is it's that frame, and also anything inside that frame. We'll talk about what those frames mean a little bit later on. We're also going to have the type tool. It's this big T right here. That's going to allow you to go ahead and add some text. You'll select the tool, click and drag, and then you'll be able to, and I'm going to use the selection tool to make sure that I have selected that text frame. You'll be able to go ahead and type inside here. If I double click, it'll take me back to that type tool. And I can go ahead and use the properties window over here to kind of adjust the font however I want to. I can select the type of font. If I want to have, more of a headline looking thing, or a title, or if I just want a basic paragraph, I can just go ahead and do that. I can also change the color with the fill option right here. If I double click on fill, it'll have some pre-selected, red, green, blue types of colors. And so say I want to make my text pink. What I also want to do is I want to add a cool outline for this one. So we can go ahead and play with the outlines. I'm going to go ahead and do a blue outline just to make it look cool. I can make that thicker for the outline. And then I'll go ahead and select a font. The font that we like to use for the paw print is this TW Sen. It just looks professional and fun at the same time. You can also change if you want it to be regular, italic, or bold and italic. And then you can change the font size. So I can select a predetermined number. I can type in an exact number. I can also change the spacing between the letters. I can change the spacing between lines. And then I can change it so that it's either in metrics or it's in optical measurements. But we'll just leave it at metrics because that's the default. And then there's my text. So that was a quick way of playing around with that text tool. The next tool we're going to look at is this line tool. This one is helpful when you have a story that doesn't fit the whole page, but you want to separate it so that you can have another story on this side or on the bottom. And so you'll use that line tool. It's pretty self-explanatory, but we use the same options. Pick a color. The stroke will allow us to have, different styles of lines. We can change the thickness with that stroke. We can make it so that the corners end up looking different if we had corners. Opacity, 100% opacity means that it's completely solid, or if it has less opacity, it makes it less, it makes it more transparent, more see-through. So that's what that bar means. We'll be able to play around with those later. We can also have a shadow on there. These are all types of tools that you can use for various reasons, various purposes. And again, if I want to select that and keep editing, I'll just go back to my select tool, click on that line, and I'm actually not loving the blue here, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. Let's try green, and then my fill. What if I change that to pink or orange? And I can go ahead and play around with that. I can change the angle and all of those things. So that's the line tool. The next tool that we're going to be able to play around with is this pencil tool. This one's fun if you want to make different designs. So if I want to do like a little design on the side here, I can just make some random shape. And then inside that shape, I'll go ahead and choose a color. And I want to maybe make that a little more transparent because I might have some text right here or something like that. And if I were to drag this frame around, oops, Control Z to undo. I can drag this frame, and now suddenly it's a little more colorful, it's a little more playful, and I can drag these around, selecting both. I can put this line, somewhere around here. And then this is where my story would be if I were to put a story on there. And I can change the size of that and just make it so that it's playful. It's very customizable. The other important tool that we're going to want to play with is this rectangle frame tool. This one is great for inserting pictures. We also have the solid rectangle frame, but let's look at the hollow frame. All I'm doing is I'm selecting a spot where a picture or some other type of media might go. And to drop a picture inside this frame now, I'm going to make sure that I have that frame selected, and I'll go to File and then Place. And now I can throw down a picture. So let's find a picture. We're doing Just Mercy. Now there's a picture inside here, and if I want to move that picture around, I can use this little donut here and I can move that picture. But what we're going to see is this thing is it's a pretty big picture, and so it's not really fitting inside of this frame. So to make it fit inside that frame, I'll go ahead and go to Object, and then what I'm going to find is Fitting inside this menu. And so do I want to fill the frame proportionally? And then it's going to do that. Or there's all kinds of other frame options. The other one I like to use is Fit Frame to Content, and that will make it so that the frame actually fits, it doesn't cut off any of the image. But if I want to crop, then I would just shrink that frame, make sure that I have this selection tool, and I can shrink that frame and it will crop that image. I can also play around with this frame, and I can have like an outline for it, but the outline looks best when you use a solid frame. So we'll go ahead and play with those next, but you can see kind of what we're working with here. So let's look at the regular rectangle tool. This is going to be more of a solid 3D type of rectangle, and I can change the colors. So let's go ahead and let's try this cool blue, and I can add an outline to that. If I want to do a fun outline, I can do, let's say, this wavy outline, and I can make that thicker so that it stands out more. So there we have a fun outline. I can change the opacity if I want to make it a little bit more see-through. But now what I can also do is I can use the selection tool, select that frame, and I can again drop this or place this image, which also has a shortcut for Control D. I like using the shortcuts when I can and when I remember them. And so the way I look at Control D is I want to drop an image. So Control D for drop, even though it says place here, Control D, I want to drop an image right here. So let's find another image that I want to use. I have this awesome donut one. And so again, what I can do is I can manipulate this image and just move it around inside this frame. Speaking of donuts, I can use this donut tool right here to move this picture of the donuts. I can also, if I double click on that, that'll give me a frame around the actual image, and I can change the size of the image on my own. Or again, I can go to Object and use this fitting option, and I can play around with that frame and how it fits. But now I don't like that because I've lost my my background. So I'm going to try and center this on here. Probably end up, again, I just double click and I can change the size of that picture. And there's my frame with the donuts in the middle. If you're wondering about all these lines, that is for the purpose of making sure that everything is uniform, everything is organized properly, you filled the space equally. And so if you want to not have those lines on there, the way the newspaper is defaulted to is we have multiple margins here. We have multiple different columns, and so we're going to have 6 columns here where text would go and those kinds of things. And so you don't have to stick inside those lines. You actually have to change your text box in order to fit the inside the margins. But if you want to do away with those lines and see what this is going to look like when it's all printed, you'll go to View and then change your screen mode, and you can click on Preview. So now you can see it without the lines. This is the stuff that I've worked with, but I can still manipulate things around without all of those lines in the way so that I can see it a little more clearly. Something I want to make sure that I do is I want to make sure that I save my progress. So as you get ready to start designing, go ahead and save this as a unique document. You can go ahead and click on File, go to Save As, and then we're going to go ahead and make sure that we throw this into that Google Drive folder, Journalism, inside this InDesign section, and we'll have a folder that's for you. So you'll have your last name, images, things like that, and go ahead and publish whatever you want. As long as it has your last name. Check it's InDesign blank is what I'm going with because this is my blank copy. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. So after we've played around with the tools and we understand how to do images and text boxes and things like that, we can go ahead and go back and we'll start working on designing the cover. Now, this is probably going to be a multi-step process because down here at the bottom, we're going to have page numbers, and you're only going to have a couple of pages, but I want to make sure that we have some images in these different spots so that we can, have some color, have some flair, have some diversity on this page. But there's a couple of things that we're going to start with. So let's start with editing the text up here at the top. This is your paper. So if you want to change any of the names, any of the text that's in here, then you can. What I want is, I'm just going to change that so that it reflects who I am and what my purpose is. So Fremont High Journalism 1 is my purpose here. Volume number, whatever your favorite number is. My favorite number is 9. And my other favorite number is 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw some numbers down in here. And then what we're going to do for the date is where everybody is just going to put May 2021. What I would also like to have, in addition to reflecting who that is, go ahead and put your name right here. And then now what we're going to do is think about some of your favorite things and choose an image that represents this newspaper. What are some of your favorite things? What are things that you wrote about? Maybe you love music or something like that. I myself, so let's say one of my favorite shows is Rick and Morty. Actually named my dog Morty, and we have a cat named Ricky. So we have Ricky and Morty in my house. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up some images for Rick and Morty. And I want to make sure that I get a large size because this is a pretty big cover photo. And also I need to remember that my cover is vertical. It's not going to be landscape. So something like this wouldn't work because it would be super stretched out or it'll be very, very zoomed in. So I love this image right here from IMDb. So my recommendation, once you find a picture that you love, go ahead and click on it so you have the preview over here on the side, but then right click on that preview and go to Open Image in a new tab. And then that way you can see the actual size of that picture and you're not clicking any links and it won't take you to some random website. This one would have taken me to Amazon, but now I'm just looking at the actual image. What I need to do with this image is I need to save it. So I'm going to save that image, and again, we should have this Google Drive access, and you'll find where you saved this InDesign folder, which you hopefully put into your journalism folder. So I'm going to find my journalism folder, and I'm going to save inside here in a new folder your last name and some images. And then once that folder is actually loaded and it's saved, I want to make sure that this image has an actual clear name, and that'll save for me. What I can do now is I'm just going to minimize this search window. I'm going to zoom out so that I can see this whole page. I can see that whole page. The further you zoom out, the harder it is to see those lines. So don't worry about that. But I'm going to start with the rectangle tool. I love this rectangle tool because it'll allow you to put an image exactly where you want it and make it fit exactly to that size. So I want my image to go from top to bottom, not including this gray bar at the bottom that has contact information. So I'm just going to make that giant frame, and then let's remember how to drop a picture or place a picture. You're going to hit Control D, Control Drop, or you can just hit File and go to Place. Now I need to find that image. And remember, that image was in my Drive, in my journalism folder, inside my folder in there, and I'm going to go ahead and select the image that I wanted. And again, it's going to go on here. It's zoomed in. It's a little bit blurry looking, so I want to make sure that I transform this and I do the fitting option. I want to fit my frame to content. No, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to fit the frame proportionally. That's my second option. And now it fits inside that frame proportionally. It hasn't cut off any of the edges. And I can see that when I double click, when I see that orange outline, that's my actual image. And so I can see that it's not cutting any of the image off. If I did want to cut some of the image off because I wanted maybe the logo or something to be a little bit bigger, I can go ahead and I'll select that actual picture where I have that. I'll use this direct select and say I just want to cut off a little bit of the bottom there so that Rick and Morty are a little bit bigger, and maybe I want that text to fill that frame a little bit more. So I'll just go ahead and make sure that it fits the way I want it to be. But when I look closer, because I put this image on top of everything, I can't see that text that I put in there, and I can't see all those different boxes down here. So now that I've got the image the size that I want it, I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of things. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and rearrange. I'm going to select this image. I'm going to go to Object and Arrange, and I'm going to send this guy to the back. So that's all the way at the back. So all text and other images are going to be on top of this cover. That's what you want for your cover picture. You want it to be at the back so that anything else that you throw on there is going to be on top. And then what I noticed is because I have a dark cover photo, I want to change my font, and that's totally fine. I just need to check, select the text tool. I'm going to select that text, and I'm going to change my font color over here on the side with the fill. Remember how we did the fills earlier? And change that to white. That's going to be my background. I'm going to go ahead and change my stroke. I want my stroke to be, let's say it's blue, so that it kind of matches this theme that I have going on. And now I can read that a little bit better. I'm also going to need to change the font on the side here so that I can read all that. So you can double or triple click, and that'll select all the font inside that particular box. And again, let's change the color. So I'm going to change the fill, change the stroke, and now that all matches. But another thing that I'm noticing is this line that was here originally. I'm going to select the selection tool. I'm going to select that line, and I want to make sure that that kind of matches. So what I want to use my select tool. I'm going to go ahead and click that line. Got to make sure that I zoom in so that I can do that correctly. I'm going to change that fill to white, and that should change the line color. Change my stroke to white, and maybe make that a little bit thicker. And then if I use my arrow keys on my keyboard, I can slowly kind of move that around so that fits to that font a little bit better. So then once I zoom out and I change my view, go to view, screen mode, and I can see that preview option. This is what my cover is going to look like. I can read the text, and I'm just missing all the stuff down here on the bottom. So let's go back to normal mode, just because I like to see those lines, make sure everything is uniform and put on there evenly. And we're going to go ahead, and our page numbers is when the news section starts. So section of the news is going to start on page 2. Let's say A&E starts on page 5. Editorials, that starts on page 8. 10 for sports. Student life is going to start on page 13, and all the other stuff, editorials and things like that, is going to start on page 18. I have a lot of student life apparently. And what these boxes are asking for, this is essentially your table of contents, and we're going to go ahead and throw in some images that we believe represents that different section. So usually what we do is we pull images from articles that we've created that we believe kind of represents that section in a unique way. So let's think back to our articles that we've done and select what you believe represents the news the best. Maybe it's your feature article, or maybe it was your first article and you think it represents that very well. So as I think about the articles that I've done, I love the one about Mars. So I want to find a picture about Mars. Mania for Mars was our article of the week. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go back to my Google search. I'm going to find an image of Mars. And find a cool picture of Mars up here. You know what? This one looks really good. So again, I'm going to select that one. That one's one that I like. I'm going to open that image in a new tab so that I can see the actual size and save that image once again into my Journalism 1, InDesign, Paper Design, my last name. I call this Mars News. I'd minimize this, get back into InDesign, and to do a picture, I'll go ahead and put down a frame that fits inside this little box. Make sure that it fits there well. And then again, File or Place or Control D to drop that and find that image where you saved it. And again, we'll change the size of that image. Now that I'm seeing this picture, I kind of like the way it's zoomed in there. So I'm just gonna shrink this a little bit. I use my double click selection tool. Oh, that looks really good. So I really like that, and I feel like it really fits with the Rick and Morty vibes. So I think I might go ahead and choose a space theme now that I've kind of put everything together. So then I'm going to do the rest for A&E, for editorials, for any other things that are on here. So go ahead and work on that and put different frames inside these little sections that represents each one of these sections of the newspaper. So now we have selected an image for each one of those sections. We have titles. I just need to do this last one. I'm going to go ahead and throw down my last frame. Hit Control D to go ahead and drop an image in there. Select the image I'm looking for. I can make sure that it fits properly, but then it doesn't quite fit right. So I use my selection tool, double click, select the image. And because I'm not selecting the frame, I can make that image bigger and it'll automatically be cropped. And I'm noticing that that frame is not exactly in line. So just make sure that that frame fits properly. It's this frame that's not working right. And there is our cover page. Go ahead and go to View. Click Preview, and I can see my awesome cover page. And all I need to do now is work on my back cover and put down my articles inside these different news sections.